Well, maybe the United States Supreme Court does have a way to troll Donald Trump after all, concerning his assault on the rule of law, concerning their deep skepticism about him and the positions that his lawyers, the Department of Justice, take. And it came in a amazing moment where all 9 justices of the United States Supreme Court stood up in unison and gave a standing ovation to a 46-year member of the Solicitor General's office who is resigning mainly because he doesn't want to do Donald Trump's bidding any longer, nor work in his Department of Justice. So when Edwin Kneedler, who's 79, who's been arguing the most amount of oral arguments ever handled by any advocate ever, 160 oral arguments, when he decided he couldn't do it any longer for this administration. John Roberts, at the end of an oral argument just the other day in the court, did something no court watchers have ever seen. I'm going to cover it right here on the MeidasTouch Network and for Legal AF. Kneedler was done with an oral argument with his 160th. And that's when Roberts went to work. Now, I don't agree with most of what John Roberts has been doing or how he's been managing this Supreme Court. But at this moment, I see this as the response of the Supreme Court back at the executive branch for them being trolled and attacked and criticized by Donald Trump. Because when they had the moment to celebrate somebody who's known as a citizen lawyer, and that's a good thing, who's known for his integrity, his justice, his candor to the tribunal, telling the truth, right? Not only being a font of knowledge, but a font of wisdom, they stood up in unison, all 9. It was a rare moment of unanimity, and not just begrudgingly, like, you're at a show and, well, is this really a moment for a standing ovation? This was a standing ovation with joyous faces on, celebrating somebody who, in a nonpartisan way, staying above the political fray, just did his job as a career a member of the elite group of oral advocates in the Department of Justice we call the Solicitor Generals. This is what John Roberts, the Chief Justice, had to say. He said, he asked for the lawyers to come back to the lectern, back to the podiums, and he said to Mr. Kneedler, you have just presented your 160th argument before this court, and I understand it is intended to be your last. Yeah, I mean, they've reported it as he's retiring, but he doesn't want to do, in the final days of his life, he doesn't want to do Donald Trump's bidding. He doesn't want to do the zealous advocacy that's required, the fealty and loyalty that's required by Pam Bondi and by John Sauer, the Solicitor General. So this is as good a time as any. It's a tremendous loss to the United States of America. It's a tremendous loss to the Department of Justice and to the Solicitor General's office to lose the institutional memory, to lose the mentoring, to lose the knowledge, the passion, but yet the candor and the integrity of a guy like Edwin Kneedler. And so here's what the Chief Justice said. He said, that's a record, your 160 in modern times. He said, you have shown extraordinary care and professionalism. Here's the trolling now against the Trump administration. At that moment, court watchers say applause burst out in the room, and it was a quick standing ovation, and the justices, beaming, did the same thing. Everyone that knows anything about Ed Kneedler or served under him said that he's the embodiment of the government lawyer ideal, one whose candor to the court and interest in doing justice, not just winning a case, always carried the day, says Greg Gary, a former Solicitor General under George Bush. Many of the people who are out there as appellate lawyers worked in the Solicitor General's office and were trained and mentored by Mr. Kneedler. I can't overemphasize how much of a loss it is to the United States that he decided to leave. He doesn't want to be in the limelight. And from my perspective, what the Supreme Court is trying to find is their footing here against a lawless, relentless Donald Trump, who tells people in interviews, like in the Atlantic magazine, that he's in control of the world. like some sort of perverse Scrooge McDuck or Tony Montana from Scarface, and we're watching all of that while his Department of Justice tears down the justice system. You've got 70% of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice under newly confirmed Harmeet Dillon, a right-wing MAGA Republican, leaving, taking the deal to get out of here. That diminishes Americans and our American justice system. And so the Supreme Court is trying to find its footing with a relentless yet untrustworthy Department of Justice, a lawless president, a Congress that is a doormat for Donald Trump until we do something about it at the midterms. And so what do you have left? As much abuse as we've heaped, rightfully so, on the Supreme Court, those 9 justices occupy that one branch, that top of the branch of the judiciary, and they are important. And they've watched Donald Trump, and they're trying to figure out ways to react. We've seen a number of remarkable things in the last 4 weeks. John Roberts stepped out of character, never saw a Supreme Court justice ever do this, and issued a direct statement against Donald Trump, telling him to stop calling for the impeachment of federal judges. He should only be focusing on appeals, not impeachment. I mean, there's no reason for John Roberts to do that, to issue a statement as the head of the judicial branch directed to the head of the executive branch. And now, a few weeks later, when he had the opportunity to celebrate the rule of law, to celebrate justice, to celebrate candor, to signal to the Department of Justice and everyone around us that there are people who can still be admired, although they're now being shown the door. I just find it ironic that the day that this story sort of breaks and we learn more about it is also, we find out that, Harmeet Dillon is hollowing out the all-important, what was once important Civil Rights Division. And so now it's been corrupted and is being used against people's civil rights. It's investigating, whether a transgender swimmer should properly have been on a women's sport team or not. This is now what the Civil Rights Division under the Trump administration is doing. Just as the Department of Education is no longer involved with education, it's now going after teachers and students and organizations and universities. This is Fahrenheit 451, right? This is Ray Bradbury. This is the firemen who are no longer putting out fires, but are actually starting fires and burning books. That's where we are in the Trump administration. And so I don't think it was, I'm not sure how much they planned it, but I don't think it was a accidental moment. John Roberts wanted to send a message that they're still going to celebrate and reward and reinforce the rule of law and professionalism and ethics in our profession. We're coming up on May 1, which is Law Day around the country. I'll be taking my oath again for the several bars that I'm a part of, just to show the American people that I'm committed to the rule of law and to justice. And so is the citizen lawyer, the lawyer's lawyer, Edwin Kneedler. You're not going to see another standing ovation in the United States Supreme Court ever. Certainly not during the rest of the Trump administration, I can assure you. I've been doing this for a long time, 35 years in law and following the United States Supreme Court all that time. I've never heard of a standing ovation, all 9 justices being led for a departing member of the Solicitor General's office or for anybody. It means something. I wanted to cover it here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. Take a minute, help us in a number of ways. Pro-democracy, hit the subscribe button for the MeidasTouch Network. Come on over to Legal AF. I'm doing a YouTube channel in collaboration and with the brothers on the MeidasTouch Network, Legal AF MTN. You're getting about a dozen videos there at the all-important intersection of law and politics, including we're going to be doing all the major Supreme Court oral arguments and then doing some commentary after it. And then, of course, Legal AF, the podcast. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.